To kickstart our opening ceremony, we have with us Sandeep Anandampillai, the founder and chief product officer of Crediwatch, which is an industry-defining data science and technology company. He has over 18 years of global experience in software development, management, and business on big data projects for Fortune 500 companies. His focus has been in project management, data warehousing, machine learning at large enterprises such as Oracle, ThoughtWorks, and Schneider Electric. A technology geek, bike enthusiast, and a dog lover, Sandeep holds a bachelor's degree in computer science from Bangalore University. He is an enthusiastic professional who believes in the concept of customer obsession, working towards earning and retaining customers' trust. We feel extremely honored to have you with us today, sir.
Hey, am I visible? Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
Uh, First and foremost, a very good event, a good initiative, something that is close to what Crediwatch believes in. I just want to kind of, I know it's a video session, it's not what we would usually like to sit across each other and talk in person. So I thought just looking at my face is going to be a little boring. So I'm going to share a small uh, kind of a presentation that I've put together, and let me know if you can all see this, and I'll kind of walk you through.
Yes, sir, the presentation is visible.
Right. So, okay, my screen is a little above, so I'll be looking up a bit. Yeah. So, just I want to kind of bring out certain facts. I don't know how many of you knew this, and that's where I'm quite happy to see initiatives like this happening. I was surprised when I read this about a year ago that India had the highest number of women graduates, engineering graduates actually, produced in the world. But the number of women and non-binary folk who actually take up an engineering career and pursue it drops over a period of time, and we see steep drops, especially when family comes into play. But the other interesting fact is I think India is losing a lot of talent, because if you see the last line that I've written there, the from a capability perspective, the first and upper second ranking, 79% or 80% of women, as compared to 75% in, and so we're actually losing talent because of various reasons, socio-economical, a lot of things in the country. So I'm actually quite happy to be associated with this. It's a good initiative. We've also done similar initiatives. And just a note for everyone, we are a woman-led organization. Meghna Suryakumar is the founder and the CEO at the company. So I want to kind of just go through certain things, right? Because you're all going to be doing this for the next 36 hours, and these are some of the faces you would see amongst each other, right? You're trying to achieve something in a very short period of time. I'll try to give you some tips and pointers on what may be a good practice from my experience, and see how you would want to use this. But you will see a lot of different emotions that happen through the day. It's because you were not able to achieve things, or it's because it's tiring, right? You're going 36 hours nonstop. So you're gonna go through emotions. Don't let that kind of decide the outcome, because usually if you're able to, I mean, emotions will happen, but if you're able to kind of put that in check and focus on the final outcome, I think there'll be something very interesting that comes out of it. So I just want to kind of give you certain processes that I think you can all consider when you're doing this hackathon, and generally probably a life lesson also. Things that I have learned, I have applied, I have seen my friends and successful colleagues apply it. Use a process that puts the end user and the customer on top, right? In making a decision of even how you design your product, right? So you need to kind of, in the process of design thinking, you need to understand who you're solving for, right? And I'll probably, a lot of you must have heard this. Those who have seen movies like Three Idiots, right? You will. He says, "Why did you not just take a pencil? Why did you try to invent a pen when you go into space?" It sounds like a very great solution. That yeah, why take a pencil? There's no gravity issues out there. But what the professor says, Virus, the professor, is that the lead can get into the eye because of zero gravity. It's a problem that no one really thinks about. Everyone's like, okay, the pencil's easy, no gravity, ink won't be a problem. But the lead can get into someone's eye, and there's no hospital to run to in space, right? So it's important to kind of think about a lot of out of the box things. So the design thinking process is very crucial when you're trying to solve a problem. This applies whether you're doing blockchain, you're doing simple web pages, or you're trying to cook at home. If that can also be the example. But apply a process. You need to kind of get a point of view, try to see who you're solving for. Simple thing, when I want to make something for my son, I shouldn't add too much spice because it's the point of view. I love chilies, but I cannot add it there, right? So simple things like that. And uh, do rapid prototyping, do test at every point. Don't wait for the outcome before you test. And again, I use a lot of cooking examples because I like to do that for my son. You keep tasting the food when you make it, right? That is rapid prototyping and testing through the life cycle. You want to make sure the outcome is good. So there's some ideas I'm trying to use life to kind of take this and not just engineering, because you've all been studying it all these years. You'll do it for the rest of your life probably. um, this is another thing we usually apply. Again, all of these processes, you'll get a lot of material on the net. I'm just giving you a quick and kind of fast, rapid thought process so that you can apply it through the next 36 hours. Uh, think of when you do research, think from the perspective of step out of your shoes, step into the shoes of the other person, and make it user centric, and try to empathize with the user. Right? Think of what they would feel, how they would feel. An example is we build product for bankers, and they're very smart with money, but they are not technologists, right? So we can't think of a technology solution. We have to think of solving a banking problem. Technology is the means, right? So always when you do your thing, be empathize why you're building the product, right? See what will add value to it. How doing what, and I will come to a point. What we call is, you've all heard of MVP. MVP is a very famous word. What we follow is something called MUP, which is minimum usable product, right? It's not about it should be utility. It should have a utility value, not just value, right? So think of this, it's an iterative process, right? You will go through this many times over. And like I was using the other example, you'll taste the food every few times when you add a pinch of salt to do anything. I iteratively do it so that at the end of it, you'll get a good outcome, right? So you will, if I was to use the double diamond process, you will discover by research, then you'll define by thinking about what is a good solution for it, you'll build on it, and then you deliver. And what you deliver in this scenario here is a prototype. You will not be delivering a full product, right? So there are certain quick ways of processes of doing the LUP. You will empathize with the consumer that you're kind of whoever you're building the product for. You'll ideate around it. You will keep prototyping. In a hackathon, it's rapid prototyping. I'll come to that. Try to validate it from the user's perspective. I don't know how many of you will have the ability, but please remember there are friends and others around you, even on a virtual meet, and they can be user validation, and then finally implement that solution, right? Um, I mean, very high level, this is called an empathy map. When you want to build the prototype or whatever solution you want to do, you can Google it. You'll get enough and more ideas and examples of this. Use it. Think of what the user says, what the user thinks, what the user feels, and what the user is going to do, and what's the value you're delivering to the user, right? Uh, this is what we do, right? We write empathy stories, right? We try to any problem. I might be building a balance sheet for a banker, or I might be building the application form for someone to apply for a loan, or I might be building a ledger to exchange information between two parties. There could be so many things we do. Think of who's the person acting, the actor. So I am This is how we write stories. I am, you can say so that, or you can say I am trying to. I am Harish, I'm trying to get a loan, but it's a long, and why am I trying to automate this? Why am I building a solution? Because it's a very long and uncertain process. And what is the real problem? Reason why it's the process is bad, right? Because sometimes simple things solve a problem. Everything is not about technology, right? It's about the approach and how you apply it also. So why do I want to apply this solution? That's the root cause of the because. And then what is that empathy? What is that emotion you're trying to address? Because if the process of lending is very long, then people get worried because if they don't get money, their business gets affected. So you're trying to solve that problem. You're not trying to just do a transaction verification system, right? So you have to think of these and put it in an empathy map, write a story around it, and then try to solve it. You'll kind of relate to it very differently, and that will help you build great products, right? I'm going to skip certain of these slides, but there are about 4 rules that we kind of use at Crediwatch about for ideation. One rule is when you're doing this over the next 36 hours, you'll plan it, right? You won't jump into coding day, in the first minute. You will share ideas. You're all working as teams, right? Uh, Please remember, when you talk to each other, remove the inhibition of the fact that if my question sounds stupid, then I'm going to look stupid, right? There are no bad ideas. It is not your experience that defines an idea, right? Like, for example, we usually use this, right? The post-it, right? It's putting gum on a piece of paper. That's it. It's kind of the most fundamental rudimentary idea, but it's a worldwide success. It's a huge product, and it's a post-it. It's gum on paper. That's it. So there is nothing called a bad idea. Sometimes such simple things can solve really big problems, right? Communication is solved with post-its in many ways. Um, the next point is when you're discussing, find your means. I'm not saying you have to write it down on paper. You can find your means. You can record your meeting. You can take notes. You can use a dictaphone to do anything, but capture everything that is discussed and visit it whenever you can, right? Because you'll remember portions of it, and you want to go back and kind of think about what was the exact idea that we spoke at that point. So capture it. It'll help you kind of uh, connect more with the real thought that was going on at that point, because we tend to lose thoughts. It's very natural. We all human beings have short-term memory, right? And when you do brainstorming, do it in 2 ways, right? So usually the way I try to approach it and the way we do it with my teams is each one thinks for themselves first and comes together and debates, right? So it's a hybrid brainstorming. They have had the ability to think independently and think collectively. Those are good rules for when you want to ideate, because when you think independently, you have your own thought processes and no one's disturbing or deflecting that flow. Whereas when you come together, now you're challenging. So it helps, both will kind of help you finally come up with an interesting thing. Usually we speak of quality, right? We always want quality product. When you're ideating, quantity makes sense, right? Of course, it comes with a thing. Quantity is not stupidity. Quantity is good amount of thoughts, but a lot of it. We don't want to just think, will it always be successful? Just put it there. As long as you're being aligned with the vision or aligned with the solutioning of the product or the problem statement that you're going to have, quantity helps, right? And sometimes when you see a lot of quantity, you will find a pattern. Our brain has very different ways of working. So you'll find a pattern and you'll be able to kind of come up with something different out of all of the things that you actually thought of during the ideation. These are some things you can use when you do your prototyping, because you will need to prototype and build. But of course, you'll use rapid prototyping. So I'm just giving you some ideas on prototyping. Mock it up. And when I say mock up, it's not always tech. You can actually use a piece of paper and pencil, use your mobile phone cameras, share it on a chat. So you don't need to get very good at mocking. You just need to share the idea visually, right? Use the storyboards that I already showed earlier. And a very important thing, it can turn out costly in a hackathon, but it also turn out very beneficial, right? Because your time is very short, but fail as fast as you can. Because if you go in on the 36th hour and fail, it's going to be a big disappointment. So fail fast is very important, and keep iterating. You might have to change direction through the through the 36 hours. And this applies in projects that last 36 months also, right? You should fail faster because the goalpost is always moving because the world is ever changing. So that's something we just need to keep in mind for the hackathon, but also as a life when you become when you start working in a product company or when you do things and you solve problems for your customers. These are things that we need to really keep in mind. This is another very important aspect, and like I said, in your case, you might have very limited access to user, but please do realize each of you is a user for the other. So in my own organization, what I tell my API team is that the front end team is your customer, right? And they treat them like one. They are the you validate your API with our own front end team before you go and take it to the world and make an API platform, right? So try to find users in your own ecosystem and then go out if you're able to, right? 36 hours may be short, but when you're actually doing projects, this is very important for you to have a successful product, right? Simple things sometimes which we oversee because we are thinking very technically to solve a problem, the user will give you a very different perspective. So always try to validate your idea with the user. And a very classic example, which I think I admire, is how Dropbox did user validation. The entire user base, the beta testers, were not adults; they were kids because kids are inquisitive and they don't have the fear of making a mistake. So it was the best beta testing because they completely try to muck up the system. They kind of completely mess it up and see how well how the kids will try to break it. Right? That's inquisitiveness. That's a great testing. So validation and testing, and they took a lot of feedback when this was happening, and it helped them kind of understand human behavior. Which, as an adult, you'll be very guarded. You'll try to be intelligent to do something. The kid will just do it. So it's important that you also choose the right user when you do user validation. It's not just about getting it validated. So don't take a banking product to a banker always, because the banker is already smart about it. So they'll understand, they will oversee certain basic mistakes that you would have made. Take it to someone who has no banking experience because they will mess it up. And that's the best validation for a product, because if you can make a product that doesn't get messed up there, it'll definitely work everywhere else. Right. So, and when you're creating a minimum usable product, don't build the car with the wheels of the car. Build a machine that can move, right? So if you see the first two, the first one looks like a proper approach, right? You are building the wheel, you build the base, you build the body, you build the car. No, try to build something that moves, then add an engine, then make it bigger, then put seats, right? This is just an example. Of course, Mercedes might not do it this way because they've already matured in this whole process. But when you're starting fresh, when you're ideating product in new virgin territories, right? This is an interesting way of doing a minimum usable product. Just don't do value. Uh, Here is something you could all think about when you build your product, because when people look at the outcome of a product and how good it is, it's on many of these factors, right? Is it something that people want? So there is this whole thing about must have, could have, should have, and nice to have, right? Try to go towards must haves, right? Or position your product. I will always not say try to, you can always not build a must have, but you can position. Like my best example is social networks is not a must have. It has become a must have, right? Social networks were built to just connect and gather information, but today we live on it. You can actually do without it, but it has become a desirable product. So it's not just about building a product that is critical. It's also about having the vision to make something critical in the life of something by making it a part of their life, right? So desirability, building it for the user that it becomes a must-have. Any idea can be made a must-have, right? And that is also a sales thought process, right? So you have to sell. Uh, Product is in life is all about selling. Can you sell an idea? Can you sell a concept? Can you sell the technology? Right? Make it desirable. Is it viable? Like Google is so famous because it seems free. Google search seems free, but that's the viability. And they're a multi-billion dollar company because of that, right? Then also look at technical feasibility. Sometimes the product is very correct to build, but it's too complicated today. So there are two ways to look at it, right? Either you break the tech, you innovate to overcome the technology feasibility, or you wait for the right time. Uh, Many product companies, right? Many of the earlier social networks failed, also because that was not a technology feasibility, it was a community feasibility, right? It was the market feasibility. But feasibility is very important, right? Last thing is the reliability of the innovators. Are you, and when I say reliability, it is, are you willing to pursue to the end? The 36 hours is an interesting test for you, right? So can you pursue all the way through the 36 hours to the last minute, similar to an exam that you would do? You want the examiner to give you 2 extra minutes to write that last line, but are you going to pursue all the way to the end? And that's what kind of leads to. So don't get disappointed by failures, even on the 30th hour, because 6 hours is probably enough. And I have a personal life experience where I actually built a very fancy, and this was in my like ninth standard. I wrote a very fancy software program, and those days we had 5.6-inch floppy drives with, I think it was 24 MB storage. That's it. But the day I had to submit it for my competition, the floppy drive got corrupted, and I had only one copy. So I had literally 8 hours to get to my project. And what I did was I mean, I was lucky, but I made a little software this was in the 90s, which you converted your typing keyboard into a musical sound. And I just used mathematical conversion of every ASCII character to kind of generate a sound with a tempo and stuff like that. And I actually got the second place. So the entire product that I built for all that time probably would have not gotten a prize also. But what I'm saying is it was the perseverance. You need to kind of be reliable and live it to the end. So that's going to be a good test for you even in a hackathon, because 36 hours, trust me, is not easy, right? So this is something you should do. My thought process for what you should probably look at when you do your hackathon is, don't go through the entire big process, because the problem statement is, is kind of going to be contained, right? You only have 36 hours, so it has to be a contained problem statement. So review, refine, prototype, and keep doing it, right? So build a piece, test it, works, go forward and build something more to it. Keep it as minimum. And function to form is a word that we use. Make it first work, then make it look beautiful. Looking beautiful is important. When I say look beautiful, it's not beautiful colors. It's about usability, experience designing, and those kind of things. But first make it work, then make the experience great. So use that logic, if you can, to kind of do anything that you do, even in the hackathon. Uh, just want to kind of give you a quick view of how we do it, right? So we have we have a bunch of people, so we kind of have the ability to divide and conquer this whole thing. And you have 2, 3 people in your team or whatever be the size, so you should still divide and conquer. But we have teams that just go and talk to consumers, identify the problems, go to the market, travel around. Now we don't travel, we're on Zoom and stuff, but they're always trying to understand, doing surveys, asking questions, showing photos, and kind of understand the customer's need, right? And then taking that, which is a product definition for us, we build a very quick prototype, and sometimes we build it in 1 or 2 weeks, right? I'm talking of end-to-end life cycle of a product, which we can throw to production with security and everything. But we build it in really short times, and we throw it out there, and we are okay to shut it off 2 weeks after that, right? And why I say that is I was just looking at my repository before I joined this call. I have 128 repositories, not code bases, the entire code bases that I have archived. That's the number of experiments we've done over the years, right? So it's good to fail, so that you learn what to solve for, right? And that's how you kind of grow. And another classic example, not many of you might have seen this, but there was a project by Google which they called their most successful failure, which was called Google Wave. All the chatbots and everything that they built today was actually kind of uh, experimented in Google Wave. So you had the ability to type in one screen and the other screen gets the update. You type here and your website get updated. So there were things, the Google Wave. I was a very early user of that. And that kind of also shows how ancient I am. But uh, that was their one of their most successful failures, because they learned so much, then they applied it in other things. And that's something that has inspired me to fail fast and build product that helps the bank. And then, of course, at the end of all of this, the idea is your product is successful if the user who's going to use it gets maximum value out of it, and it's most usable for them. Its usability is value in terms of I'm able to apply it again and again. Okay, so we try to get that in every piece that we do, right? And in a digital world today, when we started, we had the ability to converse with our clients and get user feedback. But as you go scale, and some of the other sponsors are scalable, they're consumer driven products. I'm still a business driven product where my clients are large banks and large institutions and things. But consumer driven products is very tough to engage with the users. So we have learned this in the past 2 years because we now have to do it digitally, right? But it's very important that you engage with your user virtually and physically, and drive conversation to kind of you know get the real feedback of what should we do next or how can we do things better, right? And always aim for improving it. You might think that was the most performant code, and there are concepts for it, right? There is the DRY concept, the don't repeat yourself. And the challenge most of the time to my engineers is, can you write any piece or any program in less than 80 lines of code? If you can write it well structured, performant, secure in less than 80 lines, that module, then you've done it well. So these are internal challenges we put to most of our engineers, but these are ways we kind of work towards making the product better. This is just for you because you're going to be doing this entirely virtually. Use I'm not promoting Google, but these are just things I thought of. You can use Microsoft Teams, Zoom, whatever suits your requirement. But use collaboration tools. Use common Jamboards and common note-taking areas to kind of collaborate on ideas because you're going to be virtual. And use Balsamiq or any of those prototyping tools. There are many available. I think Sketch, Balsamiq, Figma. There are hundreds, depending on what you're trying to do. But like I said earlier, paper, pencil, and a mobile camera is what I work with. That's kind of what I had to kind of share with all of you. Good luck with the hackathon, and it's going to be a interesting, challenging time for all of you. Take breaks. Don't sit all the 36 hours on one chair. There are tools like there's a technique called Pomodoro. Tomato clock is what it's called. It reminds you every so, and I think your fitness watches today do that, right? So take your breaks, drink enough water, don't forget your food, right? These are things that will happen because of the enthusiasm, but don't miss out on that because you need to stay strong for 36 hours, right? All the best, everyone, and good luck. Hope to see some great programming.
Thank you so much for sharing your words of wisdom with all of us here today, sir. We can all unanimously agree that you have left us with plenty to ponder upon. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. All the best.
Thank you, sir.